Are no-code apps real apps? And can they fit into your overall business strategy? There's a lot of misconception out there about whether or not no-code apps are real apps and whether they can fit within your business strategy and, more importantly, scale within your business strategy. And that's what we're going to talk about today because I want you to be able to make the best decision for you and your app. And I want you to be able to do so confidently. Now, make sure you stick around until the end because I'm also going to talk about a training that's there for you to join in on if you are moving forward in the no code space and if you do actually want to correctly build and launch a no code app. So stick around for that. Now, first, if you're new around here, my name is Kristen, and I'm the co-founder of Coaching No Code Apps, where we help business owners and industry experts build custom apps to either start their app-based businesses or grow their existing businesses all without coding and with no technical background required. So the big question is, are no-code apps, quote unquote, real apps? The misconception comes about partly because no-code tools and no-code platforms are relatively new. At least the no-code space is newly expanding, kind of exploding at this point. And so there's a lot more buzz now about no code. More people are hearing about it. And there are some people who they haven't quite caught on to the new advancements or the new trends, or maybe they haven't leveraged them themselves quite yet. And so there's just some misunderstanding about what no code tools should be used for or what they can be used for. Sometimes you see traditional developers thinking that no code doesn't create real apps. And that's okay. But again, the no code space it's growing, it's evolving at a rapid pace. And so these notions are kind of changing. They're still there. Now, what's behind them is the idea that no code apps aren't hand coded, right? They're not written out line by line and therefore they're not real. They're built on top of some sort of platform or they're pieced together with a number of different platforms. And so they're not real. They can't scale within a business or they can't scale as a business. And the reality is that's just not true. And so I kind of want to squash these misconceptions today because they scare a lot of people. They hold a lot of people back from being able to build applications, custom applications, even without technical backgrounds. They hold people back from being able to launch app-based businesses as non-tech founders. So these are really limiting misconceptions here. And I want you to be able to move past them if they have caused you some hesitation as well. So why do some people not consider no-code apps to be real? There are a handful of different reasons, but a few of the main reasons are, number one, some people say that no-code apps built using no-code tools, aren't scalable. And therefore, they're not real apps because really you can just use no-code tools to kind of get started. And then you're going to have to switch over to a coded solution to actually make any real headway, right? That's the belief. The reality is different. The reality is, number one, there are lots of no-code platforms out there and lots of no-code tools out there. Just because you are building a no-code app doesn't mean that you are building one from scratch on a no-code app development platform. You might be stringing some no-code tools together using something like Zapier, right? But just because you are building a no-code app, it doesn't mean that it's not going to be scalable. You really have to look at the way in which you're building an app, and you have to look at your intent for the app. So I was mentioning, you could be piecing some no-code tools together. You could be building an entire app from scratch. Well, what is your goal with the app? So first, based on your goal, you have to know which tools to use, because if you have a goal that goes well beyond what is going to be possible with one platform or one tool or one combination of tools, then you're not going to be able to get there, right? You're not going to be able to scale there because your goal and your path to get there, they're misaligned. So number one, you have to make sure you're using the right platform that's going to facilitate you achieving the scale that you're after. But you also have to make sure that you're building your app in the right way. So for example, we like to use Bubble to build apps. And with Bubble, you have a lot of control over the way you build your apps. It gives you lots of control. It puts the power in your hands as the developer of the app. And because of that, you have to make sure that you're leveraging the tool in the right way. If you build your app and you don't have scalability in mind, you're not building it in order to be scalable, then your app is not going to be scalable. But if you're building with scalability in mind, then your app can scale. So you have to look at a few different factors. Are you using the right tools, and are you using them in the right way? Okay. Now, to touch on scalability as well, and we'll go into this more in a few minutes, but I also want you to think about what scaling looks like to you. Picture yourself a year, 2 years, however long after you've launched your app, and you have reached the goal of scale, whatever that means to you. I want you to literally define it, okay? Now, I want you to think about a few things. If this is one of the factors that holds you back from confidently moving forward with no code, right? The question of scalability, think about a few things. With that definition of scaled in your mind, are you going to reach that overnight? Are you going to reach that in a month, in 2 months, right? Chances are no. Whatever your definition of scale is, if you were to reach that overnight, then you're going to have a hard time as a human entrepreneur on the other side, just scaling the business alongside that, much less the technology behind it. So the reason I want to touch on this is because a lot of people think, well, what happens when I scale? And they're just assuming that that's going to happen overnight. But really, if that were to happen overnight, you're going to be thinking about a lot more things than just your app itself. So let's put the full picture into perspective here. But the second thing I want you to think about is, if you were to reach that point of the point at which you've scaled, your definition of having been scaled, what does that look like? And if you did potentially, for some reason, decide to move away from no-code tools at that point, would that really be your biggest problem, right? Chances are, if you have scaled to the point where you're even thinking about wanting a new solution, you probably have a really good problem on your hands, right? Switching your platform or switching how you've built your app, if you ever needed to do that, it's just, that wouldn't be your biggest problem, not realistically. So you are likely thinking about your situation now and where you are now, and you're thinking, oh my gosh, what if I had to move away from no code because it doesn't build real apps down the road? And that sounds really scary, but you're here now. Once you get there, if you get there, assuming you get there, you're going to be thinking about a lot of other things. That's not going to be your biggest problem, right? It's a good problem to have, right? So I want you to think about it that way. Now, that's not to say that you will need to move away from no-code tools, because again, you will have a real app using no-code tools. Make sure that you are using the right no-code tools and you're leveraging them in the right way, but keep the big picture perspective in mind as well. Okay. Now, another reason why some people wonder whether no-code apps are real apps is because in a lot of ways, no-code apps seem to be templated. right? With a custom coded app, you can build whatever you want. And with a no-code app, you have to build on a platform. And that means you can only build what the platform allows you to build. And so some people consider these to not be real apps in the sense that they're not really custom made. And again, this can be true, but it doesn't have to be true. That's up to you. And it starts by looking at, again, your goals and which platform you're using. If you don't need to build a really customized app, then use a platform that offers a lot of templates, because that's just going to get you up and running faster and probably for a lower cost. Okay, so if you don't need any or too much customization, then why go after that, right? Why even pursue it? But if you do need more customization and you don't want to work off templates at all, well, choose a platform that allows you to do that, because there are lots of platforms out there where you can build exactly what you want. And so again, with the evolution of no code, there are some outdated opinions out there, right? And this is one of them. And the reality is you can build a fully customized app using no code tools. You don't have to work off of templates, but the good thing is they're there if you need them, and they help you move a lot faster in some cases, right? So keep that in mind. Now, the third reason that I want to touch on as to why some people consider no code apps to not be real is that some people worry about the security of no code apps. And this is a big one, and it's one you might have wondered about or thought about before too. Now, we've actually made a full video on security before, so I won't do a deep dive into that here, but I do want to touch on it. So some people think no-code apps aren't real just because, again, you're not coding them line by line. You're not writing out each line of code from the ground up. You're building on top of a platform. And therefore, what control do you have over the security of your app, right? It's a good thing to think about. Obviously, it's not something you want to ignore. Now, I can't speak for every single no-code platform or tool out there, but when it comes to Bubble specifically, which again is the platform we like to use, you think about security in a couple of different ways. So the first thing is when you look at apps that have been custom coded from the ground up, there's a lot that goes into that. And there's a lot of chance that there will be human error involved, right? Every app built is custom. Imagine yourself writing a book by hand. How many typos do you think are going to be in there, no matter how many times you proofread, revise, and edit that book? There are probably still going to be a lot in there, okay? Now, when you are using no-code tools, you have a really big advantage when it comes to security, because no-code tools themselves, so let's take Bubble, for example, that is a custom coded tool, right? There is code behind the tool that creates sort of the underlying foundation of every single app that's built on top of it. Now, if you look at the individual custom app that is written line by line, and that is maybe tested a lot, but by one person or one team, right? If you look at that type of app, there's a lot of room for error there. If you look at an app that's built on a platform like Bubble, that underlying framework that is Bubble, right, that your app is built on top of, that has been stress tested time and time and time again, thousands and thousands and thousands of times over, because all these different apps are being built on top of it. And so there's a whole team of people making sure that that underlying framework is solid and secure. And there are hundreds of thousands of people building apps on Bubble, and they're all giving this platform the opportunity to be stress tested again and again and again and again and again. So there's a lot less room for error there. Okay, so when you look at those two different scenarios, you can already see how the fear of security, it's a little bit misleading. You have to think further into how the security of different apps could compare. Now again, we could go down the rabbit hole when it comes to security. And I just want to give you the most important components that you need to make a decision for yourself and move forward confidently. But when you have a platform that takes care of a lot of the security for you and you can't touch some of that underlying code, you can't touch those security components, which is a good thing, right? Because that means that you can't accidentally tweak something or mess something up. That's a good thing. What you can do is build your app on top of it. And with the control that you have, you can put extra security measures in place based on exactly what you need, right? You have the option to do that. And again, I'm speaking to Bubble specifically here, but that's up to you. Okay, you just have to make sure, again, that you're leveraging the tool correctly, and especially for your needs. So when it comes to that, it's another misconception. And again, the no-code space is constantly evolving. And so these tools aren't going to go on the decline. They're only going to continue to become, more robust, and they're going to continue expanding and evolving and meeting more and more users' needs. This is a really, really good thing. And it's a great time to be stepping into the no-code space. So with those misconceptions behind us, now we have to ask, okay, we know that some of these sort of thoughts or opinions about no code, we've seen both sides of these now, but can no code apps really fit into my overall business strategy, and can they scale with my business? That's the next question you have to ask, because that's really the goal, right? No code tools are just the path to get there. They're what you're leveraging to build your business. Now, the really great things about using no code tools are that, number one, there's a lower cost. So you don't have to pay that $100,000 price tag you were quoted by a traditional development agency to build your minimum viable product app, right? You can get your app up and running for a much, much, much lower cost. And not only that, you can get it up and running a lot faster. So you have the cost, you have the speed benefit, and it's also just convenient. You don't have to know how to code. You can build the app yourself if you want. You can manage the app yourself. You can iterate quickly because you're the one who's in control of your app. You don't have to relay your vision or your ideas to a developer somewhere. You can just build them on your own exactly how you want. There are a ton of advantages to no code. It's a lot less risky too. When you're building a business and you are launching an app, being able to do this at a lower cost and faster and in more convenient ways, it lowers your risk a ton. Because if you go the traditional route where you have to invest hundreds of thousands of dollars potentially just to get the app up and running, you're already putting yourself at a really high risk level. But you can start to test and iterate and move really quickly when you're using no-code tools. And it just brings that risk level way, way, way down, that's a massive benefit for any business, whether you're just starting up or whether you've already created a business and you're adding on an app, or maybe you're using an app to help your business scale. It's a very big advantage. So as it fits into your business strategy, think about those advantages and think about the risk. Now, what a lot of entrepreneurs think of first is what happens if down the road, right? Let's say I build my app using no code tools. Well, what happens if, I want to move off this platform down the road? Or what happens if X, X, and X down the road? But remember, when you're building a business, you need to actually make sure you can get to the point where those fears and worries would ever even potentially become a problem. Because if you hold yourself back from moving forward with no-code tools because you're worrying about these things, that's really more risky than not moving forward at all. Because how else are you going to move forward? What else are you going to do? Are you going to spend those tens of thousands, hundreds of thousands of dollars for other developers to do it for you in a way that some other people consider to be more real? Is that less risky than just getting started with your app, building quick traction with your business, and then growing from there? No, right? So really think about the big picture here when you're asking, are no-code apps real apps? Well, we've already gone through a lot of the specifics, but what are your goals? And really weigh the real risk. That's really the important part because, again, no-code tools are just what you're leveraging to be able to build a better business, okay? You're enabling yourself to be able to grow and scale a business because you're reducing the risk, you're adding the convenience, the speed, you're reducing the cost, okay? Consider those factors. That's what's going to help you really move forward with your app. All right, I hope that is helpful for you. It's something that we see a lot of people questioning, and with good reason, because again, there are a lot of misconceptions out there. But sometimes when you really think through the specifics of those misconceptions, when you really think through your own goals and how they affect you, or maybe how they don't affect you, then you can start making some smart decisions and some fast decisions so that you can actually start moving forward with your business instead. Now, like I said, we do have a free training that will help you move forward if you are deciding to move forward. So if you head to coachingnocodeapps.com/workshop, we have a 75-minute workshop where we guide you through some strategy for getting started with your app. We talk about some of the technical tools involved, what you can do with them, and really just how to move forward with your app in the best way possible. So again, you can head to coachingnocodeapps.com/workshop to join in on that. And we hope to see you there. But again, I hope this was helpful for you. Thanks so much for watching, and we'll see you in the next one.